The grand diplomatic citadel shimmered in the light of a nameless star, a fortress of glass and alloy suspended against the void. Inside its council chamber, hundreds of alien envoys filled third rows, their voices weaving a low chorus of argument, translation systems struggling to keep pace. The room was alive with color, scaled hides, metallic carapaces, fur, feathers, and the shimmering membranes of gas breathers in their fluid tanks. At the center of the chamber stood a single figure in dark attire, human and unmistakably out of place. Ambassador Elena Voss waited for silence. Her posture was precise, hands clasped before her, eyes steady. She had learned that in this place, strength was not shown with raised voices but with restraint. "We are not here to divide," she said. Her voice carried through the amplifiers, clear and calm. "Humanity seeks cooperation. The void is vast enough for us all." A ripple of unease spread across the chamber. Whispers crackled through translation nodes. Humanity's arrival was still too recent, their technological rise too abrupt. Many races still regarded them as dangerous anomalies, an unpredictable fire climbing toward the galactic stage. From one of the upper tiers, a guttural laugh broke the tension. Commander Tverik of the Scoreth Dominion rose to his full height, towering, plated in iridescent armor that gleamed with battle honors. His mandibles clicked with derision. "Cooperation?" he said, voice dripping venom. "Your species stumbles into our council, waving treaties as though they have earned their place. You have not bled as we have. You have not built empires in the dark. You are children playing with stolen tools." Elena did not flinch. She had expected the Scoreth to resist. Their pride was legendary. "We have not come to replace anyone," she replied evenly. "Only to share in what has already been built." Tverik's laugh deepened, cruel and resonant. "Words. Empty and weak. Let us see how long you keep them when tested." Gasps rose as he drew a blade from his hip, the metal glinting with a deadly curve. Security drones swiveled, sensors locking, but none moved fast enough. The commander vaulted the barrier, descending toward the floor of the chamber, weapon raised. Time slowed. Elena did not step back. Her gaze never left his. To retreat, even an inch, would validate his contempt. Tverik's shadow fell across her as the blade swung downward. A blur intercepted, the arm of a human security officer deflecting the strike with a crack of metal against alloy. The impact echoed through the chamber. Guards surged forward, weapons drawn, surrounding the Scoreth warrior. He struggled, mandibles flaring, but was forced to his knees. Chaos erupted. Alien diplomats shouted across languages, some calling for immediate execution, others warning against dishonoring a war hero. The council chamber quaked with fury and fear. Elena raised a hand, halting the storm. Her eyes fixed on Tverik. Her voice was steady, almost too soft for the translators. "You have chosen extinction." The words cut sharper than his blade. For a heartbeat, silence smothered the chamber. Even the translation systems paused, as if the machines themselves understood the weight of what had been spoken. Tverik sneered through the grips of the guards. "Empty threats. Your kind lacks the spine for war." Elena did not answer him. She turned, her cloak whispering against the polished floor, and walked toward the chamber doors. Each step echoed with dreadful calm. No haste. No fear. Only inevitability. The envoys erupted again once she was gone. Some cursed her audacity, others whispered in awe. And beneath it all lingered one chilling thought: humanity did not speak like others. They did not threaten, they promised. In the corridors beyond, Elena's personal guard surrounded her in a protective wedge. One of them leaned close, voice low. "Ambassador, are you unharmed?" "I am." She brushed imaginary dust from her sleeve, as though the attack had been nothing more than an inconvenience. "Has the message gone out?" The guard nodded. "Coded transmission dispatched. The fleet acknowledges." "Good." Her gaze lifted toward the star beyond the viewing glass. Its light burned steady, indifferent to the storm about to break. "Then it has already begun." Back in the chamber, diplomats argued over Tverik's fate. The Scorath delegation shouted for his release, claiming diplomatic immunity. Others demanded he be handed to human custody. The presiding arbiter pounded the dais for silence, his crystalline body chiming with each strike. Yet none could erase the image burned into every witness's mind, the calm of a human staring down a blade, and the quiet promise of retribution that followed. Whispers spread from row to row, carried through private channels and encrypted relays. What would the humans do? They had no empire yet, no fleets stationed at the edges of the citadel. Their military presence was minimal. And yet, fear coiled in every mind, sharper than any weapon. On board the human embassy vessel docked to the citadel's ring, a single communication channel blinked confirmation. Coordinates locked. Countdown begun. No one spoke. No one needed to. Humanity did not posture. Humanity acted. And somewhere, 2 hours away by light-speed measure, a planet's fate had already been sealed. The Scorath Dominion capital burned with pride, not flame. The city of Cthor sprawled across the continent like a monument to conquest. Towers of obsidian and steel, colossal statues of warriors, banners whipping in the wind. Commander Tverik returned as though victorious, his armor still marked by the scuffle in the citadel chamber. Crowds gathered in the streets, roaring his name. To them, his defiance of the human was a triumph, a reminder of Scora's strength. He raised his blade high, basking in the adoration. In the governor's palace, however, the mood was colder. Advisors pressed close around the strategy table, their eyes shifting uneasily. "You were reckless," hissed Minister Valth, a narrow-shouldered elder with skin mottled gray from age. "Do you understand what you've done?" "I defended our honor," Tverik growled. "I showed the galaxy that humans bleed like any other." Veltha's voice sharpened. "But you failed to spill blood. Instead, you showed the galaxy that we attack in council chambers like savages. You showed them that humans stand without fear. You think this weakness? I call it danger." Tverik slammed a fist against the table. "They are children with stolen weapons. Their arrogance will be their undoing. No human will ever dictate terms to the Dominion." The advisors exchanged uneasy glances. None dared contradict him openly. Pride ran deeper than logic here, and pride was fatal. At the Grand Citadel, the chamber buzzed with frantic energy. News of the attack had already spread across star systems. Ambassadors debated consequences, their voices sharpened with fear. Some called for Tverik's execution. Others urged restraint. All eyes drifted, eventually, to Elena Voss. She sat in silence, watching the storm pass from one end of the chamber to the other. Her composure unsettled them more than shouting ever could. Finally, the arbiter turned his crystalline face toward her. "Ambassador Voss, what is humanity's response?" The chamber hushed. Elena rose. Her gaze swept across the tiers, meeting eyes of scaled, feathered, and faceted faces. "Humanity does not seek war," she said. "We seek peace. But we do not ignore attempts at murder. Not against us. Not ever." A murmur swept the chamber. Someone shouted from the upper rows, voice shrill. "Do you threaten extermination over one man's act?" Her expression remained unreadable. "No. I make no threats. I only remind you, actions have consequences. Some cannot be undone." The silence that followed was heavier than the debates before. Hours later, within the Citadel's private chambers, whispers moved faster than official decrees. Some envoys begged their leaders to appease the humans. Others considered aligning with them. A few contemplated war, but quietly, cautiously, unwilling to voice such thoughts in open air. Human silence was the loudest sound in the galaxy. On Scorath, Tverik prepared a broadcast. His attendants adjusted the banners behind him, polished his armor, lit the hall with blazing crimson. The galaxy would hear his voice. He stood before the transmission array and bared his teeth in a warrior's snarl. "Citizens of the Dominion, allies and rivals alike," he began. "You have seen the humans' posture. You have seen them flinch when challenged. They claim to seek peace, but their silence betrays their fear. We are not afraid. The Dominion bows to no upstart race. He raised his warblade, letting the light catch its edge. Let the humans hear this clearly. We will never yield, never cower. Let them test us. We are ready. The transmission blazed across networks, carried into council chambers, military outposts, civilian markets. The galaxy watched and waited. In a quiet chamber of the Citadel, Elena received a secure datapad from her aide. No words, no ceremony, just a blinking confirmation code. She unlocked the screen. Target lock confirmed. Operation conclusion, 120 minutes. Her aide swallowed. Ambassador. Elena closed the pad, her expression unchanged. Maintain silence. Should we inform the Arbiter? No. Let them speak. Let them wonder. Fear is most effective when left to grow. She stepped to the viewport. Beyond the glass, stars burned indifferent. Somewhere among them, unseen, a human vessel was already in position. It was not a fleet, not an armada. Just one ship. One was enough. At that very moment, on the outskirts of the Skora system, the silent verdict drifted like a shadow. Its hull bore no insignia, its heat signature mast. Crew members moved with clinical precision, their voices clipped, efficient. Targeting matrix aligned. Planetary shields irrelevant. Wormhole stabilizer engaged. The captain, an older officer with a calm that mirrored Elena's, studied the readouts. On schedule? 2 hours. He nodded once. Proceed. No speeches, no cheers. This was not vengeance. It was procedure. Back in Kthor, Tverek celebrated his so-called victory. He dined with generals, boasted to supporters, laughed at the notion that humans carried any weight in the galaxy. His voice boomed across the banquet hall. They hide behind words because they fear war. They hide in shadows because they know open battle would destroy them. The Dominion fears nothing from Earth's spawn. The hall erupted in applause. Only Velth, seated in silence at the end of the table, looked out through the palace windows. His gut churned with unease he could not name. He had seen empires burn before. Arrogance always lit the match. Back on the Citadel, the Arbiter pressed Elena again. Ambassador, will you accept reparations from the Skorath government? Her reply was a simple shake of the head. You intend to retaliate? She tilted her head, her calm unsettling. I intend to wait. The Arbiter leaned forward. For what? Elena's lips curved faintly. For the lesson to finish writing itself. The chamber erupted again in outrage, confusion, alarm. But she remained still, her silence louder than their fury. Hours dwindled. The countdown neared completion. Elena received a second encrypted signal. Operation conclusion, imminent. She closed the datapad and slipped it into her coat. The storm outside the chamber had reached its peak, aliens arguing, some demanding restraint, others predicting human destruction. None of them understood. She folded her hands on the desk before her, and waited. Above Skorath, the stars glimmered in their eternal stillness. None in the capital city noticed the faint distortion at the edge of their sky. The countdown ticked toward 0. And humanity's silence deepened into something final. The morning in Kthor began with the usual rhythm of empire. Markets filled, vendors shouted beneath banners, soldiers marched in cadence along the avenues. Children darted between towering legs, laughing, their voices mingling with the clatter of industry. Skorath life pulsed with certainty, a people convinced their dominion would outlast the stars. In the governor's palace, Commander Tverek sat in triumph. Reports of his broadcast flooded in. Across Skora's space, his face was replayed, warrior, hero, defier of humanity. He basked in the illusion of control, confident the humans would snarl and retreat, as all lesser races had before. See? He said, raising his chalice before the gathered officers. They will do nothing. They are too fragile to face us. No one answered. Far above the city, the sky shifted. It began as a shimmer at the edge of vision, a faint distortion like heat rising from stone. Then light fractured. A sphere formed, impossible in its stillness, bending the stars behind it. On the streets, citizens paused. Fingers pointed skyward. Murmurs swelled into shouts. And then the horizon tore open. On the human vessel's silent verdict, alarms remained muted, crews steady at their stations. The captain's voice was calm. "Initiate release." "Confirmed," came the reply. The weapon was not fire, nor missile, nor bombardment. It was collapse, a controlled unraveling of matter at planetary scale. Energy folded inward, consuming itself, a quiet annihilation that no shield could withstand. The countdown reached 0. And the planet answered. From the Citadel, Elena Voss stood at the council chamber viewport. Stars glittered, serene and eternal. She alone knew what was happening beyond their reach. Her datapad pulsed once, operation concluded. A murmur swept the chamber as encrypted news trickled in. Signals cut from the Scorus system mid-transmission. Fleets lost contact. Civilian channels died. Then silence. Total and irreversible. The Arbiter turned to her, crystalline body resonating with unease. What has your species done?" Elena turned from the stars, expression unreadable. "What was necessary?" Outrage erupted. Voices thundered across the tiers. "Genocide!" one cried. "Unforgivable!" shouted another. Dozens of envoys rose in fury, while others sat stunned, silent, unwilling to speak at all. Elena raised a hand. The chamber stilled. "Commander Tverik attempted to end my life in this hall," she said. "It was not only an attack on me, but on every principle of diplomacy you claim to defend. Humanity does not allow blades at our throats. We do not accept threats as politics. We do not forgive." Her tone did not rise. Her calm was the knife that cut deeper than any roar. "You may call it genocide," she continued. "I call it deterrence. Let no one misunderstand us again." The words settled like lead, pressing into every mind. No envoy dared meet her eyes. On Scorith, there was no resistance. No battle. No desperate last stand. One moment a thriving world, cities, rivers, mountains alive with billions. The next silence. The planet folded into itself, compressed, erased. Where once hung the jewel of the Dominion, only dust and lightless debris remained, scattering slowly into void. Tverik's name was lost with his world. Back on the Citadel, panic spread beyond the chamber. Messages flared across private networks. Fleets were ordered to defensive positions. Treaties were re-evaluated. Some races swore never to cross humanity under any circumstances. Others muttered of revenge, though none dared speak loudly. Fear had become the galaxy's new gravity, bending all orbits around Earth. Elena returned to her quarters at the Citadel. Only there did she allow her shoulders to relax, her mask to slip a fraction. She poured a glass of water and sat at her desk, staring at the ripples. Her aide entered hesitantly. "Ambassador, the Council is in chaos. Some demand sanctions. Others whisper surrender. What should we?" "Nothing," Elena interrupted. Her voice was weary but firm. "We have said enough." The aide hesitated. "Do you feel any regret?" Elena looked down at her reflection in the water. A flicker of sorrow touched her eyes, gone in an instant. "I regret the arrogance that doomed billions," she said quietly. "But not the lesson." She set the glass aside. "History will remember this day. The galaxy now knows humanity's kindness should never be mistaken for weakness." Her aide bowed his head, unable to reply. Later, in a closed session, the Arbiter addressed the Council. "The humans have demonstrated a truth we cannot ignore. They wield weapons beyond measure. They will not hesitate. We must decide whether to treat them as partners, or as overlords." Whispers rippled through the chamber, but no one dared speak of retaliation. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Perhaps not ever. The legend of humanity had crystallized. Elena stood again before the viewport, watching the steady burn of distant stars. She knew fear was a blunt tool, but it was the only one her enemies understood. Softly to herself, she whispered, I asked for peace. They answered with a blade. The rest was inevitable. The stars offered no reply. But across the galaxy, species recalculated their futures, rewriting their strategies, redrawing their maps. From that day forward, every leader, every general, every diplomat carried the same unspoken warning in their minds. Never raise a weapon against a human. For 2 hours after, your world might be gone.